I want to talk to you today about something we all face. Challenges, obstacles, situations we never saw coming. Maybe you're going through a tough time right now, a setback in your career, a struggle in your health, a relationship that didn't work out. You prayed, you believed, you did everything right, but it didn't turn out the way you hoped. And now you're wondering, God, why didn't you stop this? Why didn't you change it? But let me encourage you today. God never promised that we would be exempt from difficulties, but He did promise that He would give us the strength to get through them. You see, we sometimes think that faith is about avoiding the storm, but real faith is about trusting God in the middle of it. The truth is, some things God will stop. He'll heal, He'll restore, He'll protect, but other things He allows us to walk through because He knows that in the process we're getting stronger, we're growing, we're developing into who He created us to be. Think about the story of Joseph. He had a dream that God put in his heart, but before he reached his destiny, he was betrayed by his own brothers, falsely accused, thrown into prison. I can imagine he prayed, God, stop this. Don't let this happen. But God didn't stop it. Why? Because the struggle was preparing him for the palace. Without the betrayal, without the disappointment, Joseph would have never stepped into the position of influence God had for him. And the same is true for you. That difficulty you're facing, it's not there to defeat you, it's there to develop you. God is building something in you. Every time you choose to trust Him instead of giving up, every time you keep going when you feel like quitting, you're getting stronger. You may not see it right now, but one day, you'll look back and realize what tried to break you actually built you. I know it's not easy, but remember this. God doesn't always take away the fire, but He will step into the fire with you. Just like He did for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He didn't keep them from being thrown in, but He walked with them through it. And they came out without even smelling like smoke. So whatever you're walking through today, don't lose hope. You may feel weak, but God is saying, I am your strength. You may feel overwhelmed, but He's saying, I am your peace. You may feel like you don't have what it takes, but He's reminding you, my grace is sufficient for you. Keep pressing forward, keep believing, because one day that struggle will become your testimony. One day you'll look back and say, I didn't think I'd make it, but God gave me the strength to get through. And what He did for you, He'll use to encourage someone else. So stand strong, hold your head up high. God's got you in the palm of His hand. And what He started in your life, He will finish. Life is full of unexpected turns. No matter how much we plan, no matter how strong our faith is, we will all face challenges. It's not a question of if we'll encounter difficulties, but when. Some people have the mistaken idea that faith means a problem-free life, that if we believe in God, we won't have to deal with hardship. But the truth is, even the most faithful people in history face trials. The presence of challenges does not mean the absence of God. It often means He is working in ways we cannot yet see. When we look at the great men and women in the Bible, we see a common pattern. None of them had an easy journey. Moses had to face Pharaoh and lead a stubborn people through the wilderness. David, before he became king, spent years running for his life. Job lost everything and still had to trust that God was in control. Even Jesus Himself was not spared from suffering. He endured betrayal, humiliation, and the cross. If the Son of God wasn't exempt from hardship, why should we expect our lives to be any different? Difficulties are not a sign that God has abandoned us. In fact, they are often a sign that He is preparing us for something greater. When we face hardships, we have a choice. We can either let them make us bitter, or we can allow them to shape us into stronger, wiser, and more faithful people. It's in the challenges that our character is tested. It's in the struggles that our faith is refined. Consider the process of refining gold. Gold in its natural state is not pure. It contains impurities that must be removed through intense heat. The fire does not destroy the gold. It purifies it. The same is true for us when we go through difficulties. It may feel like we're in the fire, but that fire is not there to harm us. It is there to refine us, to remove anything that is not meant to stay, and to bring out the best in us. There are times when we ask, why me? Why is this happening to me? But what if we change the question? Instead of asking why, what if we started asking what? What is God trying to teach me? What strength is He building in me? What opportunity is on the other side of this difficulty? The right perspective changes everything. It shifts our focus from feeling like a victim to realizing that we are in a process that will ultimately lead us to a greater purpose. Some of the strongest people you know are not strong because life has been easy for them. They are strong because they have been through things that forced them to grow. They faced hardships that taught them resilience. They walked through storms that deepened their faith. You may see someone today who is confident, wise, and full of faith, but what you don't see is the battles they had to fight to get there. It's important to understand that struggles don't mean we are off track. Sometimes challenges come precisely because we are on the right path. When Joseph had a dream that he would one day be a great leader, he probably didn't expect that he would be betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and thrown into prison. If Joseph had judged his future by what he was going through in the moment, he might have thought, I must have heard God wrong. There's no way this can be part of the plan. But what Joseph didn't realize at the time was that every difficulty was positioning him for the destiny God had in store. Without the betrayal, he wouldn't have ended up in Egypt. Without being in Egypt, he wouldn't have been in Pharaoh's court. Without being in Pharaoh's court, he wouldn't have been able to save his family and an entire nation from famine. The very challenges that seem like setbacks were actually setups for something greater. In the same way, what you're going through right now may not make sense. You may feel like things are unfair, like the odds are stacked against you. But just because you can't see the full picture doesn't mean there isn't a purpose behind it. What seems like a detour may actually be the fastest route to where God wants you to be. Think about the life of an athlete. If someone wants to become a champion, they don't get there by sitting on the sidelines. They train, they push themselves, they endure pain and exhaustion. They wake up early, they put in the effort, and they go through challenges that test their limits. Why? Because they know that every moment of struggle is preparing them for the victory ahead. The same is true in life. The challenges you are facing today are not meant to break you, they are meant to build you. Sometimes we look at our struggles and think they are holding us back, but in reality, they are pushing us forward. The disappointment, the closed doors, the unexpected difficulties, they are not the end of the story. They are just part of the process. A setback is not a sign that God has forgotten you. It's often a sign that He is preparing you for something greater than you ever imagined. One of the biggest mistakes we can make is to compare our journey with someone else's. It's easy to look at others and think, why is their life so much easier? Why don't they have to go through what I'm going through? But the truth is, we don't always see the full story. Everyone has their own challenges. Everyone has their own battles. The person who looks like they have it all together may be fighting a battle you know nothing about. Instead of focusing on what others have, focus on what God is doing in your life. Your journey is unique, and the challenges you face are preparing you for something specific to your purpose. No matter what you're going through today, don't lose hope. This challenge is not the end. It's not the final chapter. You may not see the way forward yet, but God does. He is working behind the scenes, arranging things in your favor. One day you will look back and realize that what felt like an obstacle was actually a stepping stone. What seemed like a delay was actually God's perfect timing. So don't get discouraged. Don't let the difficulties make you give up. Keep going. Keep trusting. Because every great story includes moments of struggle. Every great victory requires perseverance. And when you come out on the other side, you'll be stronger, wiser, and more equipped for the blessings God has in store for you. Life often presents us with situations that are beyond our control. We may find ourselves in circumstances we never expected, facing challenges we never asked for. At times it can feel like no matter how hard we pray, no matter how strong our faith is, the difficulties remain. It's easy to wonder, if God loves me, why didn't He stop this from happening? Why didn't He remove this obstacle? But the reality is, faith is not about avoiding every hardship. It's about trusting that we are never alone in it. When we look back at our lives, we can all recall moments when we faced struggles we thought we wouldn't survive. Maybe it was a financial hardship, a betrayal, an illness, or a season of uncertainty. We might have prayed for things to change overnight, but they didn't. However, as time passed, we realized that even though the problem wasn't taken away immediately, we were given the strength to endure it. And that strength didn't come from our own ability, it came from something greater. Think about a child learning to walk. A loving parent doesn't prevent the child from ever falling. They don't carry the child everywhere just to make sure they never stumble. Instead, they let the child take steps, even if they fall. Why? Because they know that the process of falling and getting back up is how the child learns to walk. If the child were never allowed to struggle, they would never grow strong enough to walk on their own. In the same way, when we face difficulties, it's not because we are abandoned. It's because we are being strengthened. Many times we want the easy route. We pray for God to remove all obstacles, to clear the path, to make everything simple. But if life were always easy, we would never grow. We wouldn't develop resilience, wisdom, or character. The strongest people are not those who never faced challenges, but those who faced them and kept going. They found strength they didn't even know they had, and that strength came from a source beyond themselves. Consider the story of Paul in the Bible. He was one of the greatest apostles, spreading the message of faith across the world. But he faced countless trials, imprisonment, shipwrecks, beatings, and opposition. At one point, he spoke of having a thorn in the flesh, something that troubled him greatly. He prayed repeatedly for it to be removed, but God's response was not to take it away. Instead, God told him, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." Paul came to understand that the very thing he wanted to be rid of was actually an opportunity for God to show His strength in him. This teaches us something powerful. Our struggles don't define us, but how we respond to them does. We can either become consumed by the difficulty, letting it weigh us down, or we can recognize that we are not alone in it. We can choose to lean on a strength that is greater than our own. Think about an eagle in a storm. Most birds seek shelter when a storm comes, trying to find a place to hide. But an eagle does something different. Instead of running from the storm, it flies directly into it. It uses the power of the storm's winds to lift itself higher. What was meant to bring destruction actually becomes the very thing that elevates the eagle above the storm. The same can be true for us. When we face difficulties, we can either run and hide, or we can lean into the strength that God provides and rise above them. Every great person who has accomplished something significant has had to endure hardship. Success is never handed out freely. It is earned through perseverance, through pushing forward when everything seems against you. The athlete who wins the race didn't get there by avoiding pain. He trained, he disciplined himself, he pushed his body beyond its limits. The businessman who built a company from the ground up didn't get there by giving up when things got tough. He endured setbacks, financial struggles, and disappointments, but he kept going. The person who overcomes addiction didn't wake up one day and find it gone without effort. They fought through the cravings, the temptations, and the doubts. In each case, the strength to keep going didn't come from wishing the problem away. It came from within, from a determination to rise above the circumstances, and from a reliance on something greater than themselves. It's important to recognize that strength doesn't always look like power. Sometimes strength is simply refusing to quit. It's waking up every day and choosing to keep going, even when everything inside you wants to give up. It's getting out of bed when you feel like you can't face another day. It's trusting that there is purpose even in the pain. There's a story of a man who found a butterfly struggling to emerge from its cocoon. Wanting to help, he gently cut the cocoon open to free the butterfly. But to his surprise, the butterfly was weak and unable to fly. What he didn't realize was that the struggle to break free was necessary for the butterfly to develop its wings. Without the challenge, it lacked the strength to fly. The same is true in life. If every hardship were removed instantly, we wouldn't develop the strength we need to soar. Strength isn't about never feeling weak. It's about pushing forward even when we do. It's about knowing that no matter how heavy the burden feels, we don't have to carry it alone. Sometimes we think we are at our limit, that we can't take any more, but somehow we keep going. That's because there is a power beyond us, sustaining us when we feel like we can't take another step. If you are facing something difficult right now, don't mistake the challenge for abandonment. Just because it's hard doesn't mean you are alone. Just because the storm is raging doesn't mean you won't make it through. The strength you need is already within you. And when you reach the other side, you'll look back and realize that what you thought would break you actually built you. One day you will tell the story of this struggle, and it will inspire someone else. The things that seem impossible today will become the very testimonies that remind others that they too can overcome. Because when we endure hardships and come out stronger, we don't just do it for ourselves. We do it so we can lift others up as well. So don't give up. Keep pushing forward. The strength you need is already being given to you. One step at a time, you will make it through. And one day, you will look back and realize that what you thought was meant to break you was actually shaping you into the person you were always meant to be. Life is filled with moments that test us, that push us beyond what we thought we could handle. We all go through seasons of difficulty, times when we feel like we are barely holding on. During these times, it's natural to wonder why we have to endure so much pain, why certain doors have closed, or why things didn't work out the way we hoped. But what if we looked at our struggles from a different perspective? What if, instead of seeing them as obstacles, we started recognizing them as preparation for something greater? Often, when we face difficulties, we think they are pointless. It's easy to feel like we are just suffering without a purpose. But nothing in life is wasted. Every challenge, every setback, every trial is shaping us in ways we cannot yet see. What we are going through is not random. It's part of a bigger picture that will only become clear in time. Consider how a seed grows. When you plant a seed in the ground, it doesn't immediately sprout into a tree. At first, it looks like nothing is happening. The seed is buried, hidden beneath the soil, unseen by the world. But during that time, something powerful is taking place. The seed is breaking apart, developing roots, and establishing a foundation. If someone didn't understand the process, they might assume the seed was wasted, that it had been buried for no reason. But in reality, that season beneath the soil is essential for its growth. Without that time in the dark, the seed would never have the strength to push through the ground and reach the sunlight. The same is true in life. When we go through struggles, it can feel like we are buried, like we are stuck in a place of pain and uncertainty. But what if we are not buried? What if we are planted? What if in those difficult moments, something is being developed in us that will prepare us for what's ahead? Think about some of the greatest success stories in history. Many of the most accomplished people didn't achieve greatness because life was easy for them. They didn't reach their dreams because everything fell into place without effort. No, they became who they were because of what they endured. The hardships they faced were not roadblocks, they were stepping stones. They didn't let their struggles define them, they allowed them to refine them. Take Thomas Edison, for example. Before he invented the light bulb, he failed thousands of times. Most people would have given up. They would have assumed that failure meant they were on the wrong path. But Edison didn't see failure as the end. He saw it as part of the process. Each time something didn't work, he learned from it. Every failure brought him closer to success. Looking back, those struggles were necessary because without them, he wouldn't have discovered what truly worked. In the same way, our struggles are teaching us something. They are equipping us with the wisdom, the resilience, and the strength we will need for the future. We may not see it now, but one day we will look back and realize that what we thought was meant to break us was actually shaping us for something greater. Imagine a blacksmith forging a sword. When raw metal is first placed in the fire, it is hard and unshaped. The blacksmith repeatedly heats it, hammers it, and puts it back into the fire. If the metal could feel, it would probably wonder why it had to endure such intense pressure and heat. But the blacksmith has a vision for what it is becoming. He knows that without the fire, without the pressure, without the repeated shaping, the metal will never become a strong, sharp, and useful tool. This is how life works. Sometimes the heat of our struggles feels unbearable. The pressure seems too much. But what if we are in the hands of the master blacksmith? What if the very things that feel like they are hurting us are actually molding us into the people we were meant to be? Look at the story of Joseph in the Bible. He had a dream that one day he would be a leader, but before that dream came true, he went through incredible hardship. He was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and thrown into prison. If he had judged his future by his circumstances, he might have thought that God had forgotten him. But what he didn't realize was that every trial was positioning him for his destiny. Without the betrayal, he wouldn't have been sold into Egypt. Without being in Egypt, he wouldn't have been placed in a position of influence. Without that influence, he wouldn't have been able to save his family and an entire nation during a famine. What seemed like setbacks were actually steps toward his purpose. The same is true for us. The difficult moments in our lives may not make sense right now, but they are not without purpose. Every disappointment, every closed door, every painful experience is teaching us something. It's making us stronger, wiser, and more prepared for what's ahead. Sometimes we pray for God to remove our struggles, and when He doesn't, we assume He isn't listening. But maybe the answer to our prayers is not the removal of the struggle, but the strength to endure it. Maybe what we are going through is not meant to be taken away, but meant to transform us. Think about an athlete training for a marathon. They don't get stronger by avoiding difficult workouts. They get stronger by pushing through the pain, by running when they feel like quitting, by enduring when their muscles ache each time they train. They are building endurance. The struggle they experience during training is what prepares them for the race. In life, we are in training. Every hardship we face is strengthening us. Every obstacle is an opportunity to grow. Instead of seeing struggles as something to escape from, we can begin to see them as preparation for the future. One day, the very things that seemed impossible will be the things we look back on as defining moments. The job that didn't work out, the relationship that ended, the challenge that seemed too big, all of these things will one day make sense. We will realize that we didn't just go through those struggles, we grew through them. No one likes going through hard times, but those are the times that shape us. They reveal what we are made of. They strip away the unnecessary and strengthen what is essential. And when we come out on the other side, we will be better for it. So no matter what you are facing today, know that it is not without purpose. What you are going through is not the end of your story. It is just a chapter, a piece of a bigger picture that is still unfolding. The struggles you are facing are not meant to destroy you. They are meant to prepare you. One day you will look back and understand why things happened the way they did. You will see how every challenge was part of a greater plan. And when that day comes, you will realize that what you thought was holding you back was actually pushing you forward all along. Life has a way of bringing us into seasons where we feel overwhelmed, exhausted, and unsure of how we will make it through. There are moments when the weight of our struggle seems unbearable, when the road ahead appears too steep, and when we question whether we have the strength to continue. In these times, it's easy to feel alone, to think that no one truly understands what we are going through. But the truth is, no matter how hard the journey gets, we are never left to face it alone. There is a strength within us that we often don't realize we have. It's a strength that doesn't come from our own abilities, but from something far greater. It's the kind of strength that carries us when we feel like we can't take another step. It's the strength that allows us to get back up after life has knocked us down. It's the quiet but powerful force that keeps us moving forward, even when everything in us wants to quit. Think about the people you admire most, the ones who have overcome incredible obstacles, who have endured hardships and still found a way to thrive. Their strength wasn't built in easy times. It was developed in the moments when they had every reason to give up, but chose to keep going instead. They discovered a strength they didn't even know they had, not because they never faced difficulty, but because they persevered through it. Consider a mountain climber. When they set out to reach the summit, they don't expect the journey to be easy. They know there will be challenges. The thin air, the steep inclines, the unpredictable weather. They understand that the higher they climb, the harder it gets. But they also know that every difficult step brings them closer to the top. If they turn back at the first sign of struggle, they would never experience the breathtaking view that awaits them. In the same way, the struggles we face in life are not meant to stop us. They are part of the journey that leads to something greater. Sometimes we don't recognize our own strength until we are forced to use it. We may think we can't handle a certain situation, that it's too much for us to bear. But then we find ourselves in the middle of it, and somehow we keep going. We face the hardship, we endure the pain, and one day we look back and realize we made it through. The things we thought would break us actually revealed a resilience we never knew existed. Think about a mother giving birth. The process is painful, exhausting, and difficult. In the moment, it may feel unbearable. But despite the pain, she pushes forward, knowing that something beautiful is on the other side of the struggle. When the baby is finally in her arms, the pain is not what she remembers most. It's the joy, the miracle, the overwhelming love that makes it all worth it. Life works the same way. The struggles we endure are often the labor pains of something new being born in us. The pain may feel intense, but if we keep pushing forward, we will eventually see the purpose behind it. We will realize that what we thought was the end was actually the beginning of something new. Many times we pray for our struggles to be taken away. We ask for the hardship to end, for the pain to stop, for the burden to be lifted. And sometimes those prayers are answered in the way we hope. But other times, instead of removing the challenge, we are given the strength to endure it. Instead of taking away the difficulty, we are equipped with everything we need to walk through it. Consider an athlete training for a championship. If they never faced resistance, if they never pushed their body beyond its limits, they wouldn't grow stronger. If a coach removed every difficult workout, the athlete wouldn't be prepared for the real competition. The struggle is what builds endurance. The challenge is what makes them ready. In life, we are often in training without even realizing it. Every hardship we endure is preparing us for something ahead. The strength we gain in the struggle will be the very thing that allows us to overcome future challenges. And when we reach the other side, we will look back and realize that every difficult moment had a purpose. Think about the process of refining gold. Raw gold in its natural state is mixed with impurities. It doesn't yet shine, it doesn't yet reveal its true beauty. In order to bring out its full value, it must go through the fire. The heat melts away the impurities, removing anything that doesn't belong. The process is intense, but it is necessary. Without the fire, the gold would never reach its full potential. The same is true for us. The challenges we face, the struggles we endure, are refining us. They are burning away fear, doubt, and anything that is holding us back. They are revealing the strength. the courage and the resilience that has been inside us all along. Without the struggle, we wouldn't grow into the people we were meant to be. Think about a tree during a storm. When strong winds come, the tree is shaken, its branches bend, and its leaves may be stripped away. But something powerful is happening beneath the surface. The tree's roots are growing deeper, anchoring it more firmly in the ground. Without the storm, the roots wouldn't need to grow. But because of the struggle, the tree becomes stronger than before. The same is true in our lives. The storms we face are not meant to destroy us. They are meant to strengthen our roots. They teach us to stand firm, to dig deeper, to hold on even when everything around us is shaking. No matter what we are facing today, we can be confident that we are not alone in it. There is a strength inside us that is greater than the challenge before us. There is a power working in us that will sustain us, even in the darkest moments. One day we will look back on this season and see it differently. The things that seemed impossible will become the very things that shaped us. The struggles that felt unbearable will be the reason we are stronger. The moments that made us want to give up will be the moments that taught us what we are truly capable of. So if you are in a season of difficulty right now, know that it is not the end of your story. It is just a chapter. And when this chapter is over, you will see that every challenge, every hardship, every painful moment had a purpose. You will see that you were being strengthened, prepared, and refined for something greater. You may not feel strong right now. You may feel like you are barely holding on, but strength isn't about feeling powerful. It's about refusing to give up. It's about taking one step at a time, even when you don't know what's ahead. It's about trusting that the strength you need is already within you, and that no matter how difficult the journey, you are never walking it alone. So keep going. Keep pushing forward. You are stronger than you think, and one day you will look back and realize that the strength you needed was with you all along. Life is filled with moments that test us in ways we never expected. We face setbacks that seem unfair, losses that feel unbearable, and obstacles that appear insurmountable. In those times, it's easy to feel like we are stuck, like we are fighting a battle that we can't win. But what if we viewed those challenges differently? What if, instead of seeing them as things meant to break us, we saw them as opportunities to grow? The truth is, nothing we go through is wasted. Every struggle, every heartache, and every challenge is shaping us into the person we were meant to be. It may not feel like it in the moment, but everything we endure is working for our good. The lessons we learn, the strength we develop, and the wisdom we gain will serve us in ways we can't yet imagine. Think about how diamonds are formed. They start as simple carbon buried deep beneath the surface of the earth. Under intense pressure and extreme heat, they are transformed into something rare and valuable. If the diamond never went through the pressure, it would remain just another rock. But because of the process, it emerges stronger and more beautiful than before. The same is true for us. The pressures of life, the difficulties, the struggles, the moments that feel overwhelming are shaping us into something greater. They are refining us, strengthening us, and preparing us for what's ahead. Think about the times in your life when you grew the most. Was it during seasons when everything was easy, when everything went exactly as planned? Or was it during times when you faced difficulties, when you had to push through adversity? Growth doesn't happen in comfort. It happens when we are stretched, when we are challenged, and when we are forced to step outside of what is familiar. Consider a butterfly. Before it can take flight, it must first struggle to break free from its cocoon. If someone were to cut open the cocoon to make it easier, the butterfly would never develop the strength it needs to fly. It's in the struggle that its wings become strong enough to carry it. Without that process, it would never reach its full potential. In the same way, the struggles we face are not meant to hold us back. They are preparing us for something greater. They are teaching us perseverance, resilience, and endurance. They are equipping us with the tools we need to handle the future challenges that will come our way. Look at the story of people who have accomplished great things. More often than not, they didn't achieve success without first facing hardships. They had to endure failures, rejections, and moments when they questioned whether they were on the right path. But instead of giving up, they kept going. They saw their struggles as stepping stones rather than roadblocks. Take J.K. Rowling, for example. Before she became one of the most successful authors in history, she faced countless rejections. She was a single mother struggling to make ends meet with nothing but a dream and a manuscript. Publisher after publisher turned her down, but she didn't let that stop her. She kept believing, kept pushing forward, and eventually her perseverance paid off. Today, her books have inspired millions. What if she had given up after the first rejection? What if she had let her struggles convince her that she wasn't meant for success? Her story would have never been written. The same principle applies to all of us. If we allow our struggles to define us, we will never reach our full potential. But if we choose to see them as part of the process, as necessary steps along the journey, we will emerge stronger and more determined than ever. Think about a musician learning to play an instrument. At first, it's frustrating. Their fingers hurt, the notes sound off, and progress feels slow. But over time, with persistence and practice, they get better. The mistakes they make along the way are not failures. They are part of the learning process. Without the struggle, they would never improve. In the same way, every difficulty we face is teaching us something. It's shaping us, refining us, and helping us become who we are meant to be. The patience we develop, the endurance we build, and the perspective we gain will serve us in ways we can't yet see. Think about an oak tree. It starts as a tiny acorn buried in the soil. At first, nothing seems to be happening, but beneath the surface, its roots are growing deep. The stronger its roots become, the taller and more resilient the tree will be. When storms come, the trees with the deepest roots are the ones that stand the strongest. The same is true in our lives. The difficulties we endure are strengthening our roots. They are making us more grounded, more stable, and more prepared for the future. Every hardship is adding to our strength. Every challenge is equipping us with something we will need later on. Sometimes we don't understand why we have to go through certain things. We question why things didn't work out, why we had to experience loss, why we had to endure pain. But what we don't realize is that everything is connected. The struggles we face today are setting us up for victories in the future. The lessons we learn now will be the very things that help us navigate the challenges ahead. Think about someone training for a marathon. They don't start by running the full distance. They build up their endurance over time. Each run, each workout, each difficult moment is preparing them for the big race. If they gave up every time it got hard, they would never be ready. But because they push through, because they endure, they reach a point where they can go farther than they ever thought possible. That's how life works. The difficulties we face are part of our training. They are building our endurance, stretching us beyond what we thought we could handle. And when the time comes, we will be ready. We will be able to handle things that once seemed impossible. One day we will look back and realize that every challenge, every hardship, every painful moment had a purpose. We will see how the pieces came together, how the struggles we thought would break us actually made us stronger. We will understand that we didn't just go through those difficulties, we grew through them. No matter what you are facing today, know that it is not wasted. Every experience is shaping you. Every difficulty is adding to your strength. And one day you will see how it all came together for something greater than you ever imagined. So don't give up. Don't let the struggle convince you that you are not capable. You are stronger than you think, and the best is yet to come. Keep pushing forward, keep believing, and know that every challenge is working in your favor. You are being shaped, refined, and prepared for something greater. One day you will look back and realize that what you thought was meant to break you was actually building you all along. Through every challenge, every struggle, and every difficult moment, we are being shaped into who we were meant to be. Life will not always be easy, and we won't always understand why we have to go through certain trials. But one thing is certain, we are never alone in our battles, and we are never left without the strength to overcome them. The storms we face are not meant to break us. They are meant to strengthen us. The hardships we endure are not setbacks. They are stepping stones leading us towards something greater. Each moment of perseverance builds endurance. Each act of courage develops resilience. Every time we refuse to give up, we are proving to ourselves that we are stronger than we think. There will be moments when we feel like we can't take another step, moments when the weight of life feels unbearable. But in those moments, we must remember that we have already come so far. We have faced struggles before and made it through. We have endured pain and still found joy. We have been knocked down, but we have always gotten back up. And we will do it again. Just like a mountain climber who pushes through exhaustion to reach the peak, just like a runner who keeps going despite fatigue, just like a tree that stands firm in the storm, we are built to endure. The difficulties we face today are not the end of our story. They are the process that leads to something greater. So no matter where you are in your journey, no matter what you are facing today, know this: you are not alone and you are not powerless. You have everything you need to keep moving forward. The strength within you is greater than the obstacles before you. And one day you will look back and realize that every hardship, every trial, every difficult season was preparing you for something beyond what you could imagine. Hold on, keep pushing forward, keep believing, because the best is yet to come, and you are stronger than you think.